please put this lead bib over your crotchal area. I'm talking about radiation, X-rays, gamma rays, photons, all sorts of electromagnetism going on around us. Is it dangerous? Can it cause cancer? What is even going on? Join us today, and we're going to try and figure out what is going on with radioactivity.
So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. The taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content, and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles. Alright, to clarify that one, there's two different types of radiation, ionizing and non-ionizing. The EM one is a non-ionizing because it just heats your body. It warms you up. It's like if you were to stand...
Real quick.
If you were to stand...
Go backwards one step.
Yes.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Dan.
I literally...
I got worried.
We're talking about radiation. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were to stand next to an antenna, like there's antennas all around you in your cell phone, it heats your body like a very tiny amount. It doesn't hurt you. But if you have a gigantic antenna that's trying to transmit very far, it's generating a lot of energy. And if you were to stand really close to it, you would actually feel the warmth of the antenna as it heats your body.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't hear this or read this anywhere.
Are
you sure?
100%.
So that's
non-ionizing.
Two different kinds? Okay.
Yes.
Why is that? Because it's radio waves? They're like harmless? Is that why?
Yeah, because it's... So like the ionizing part is creating ions or charged particles. So when like something hits you, it creates a cascade. So you can have charged particles cascading off your body or through your body or in your body doing... Yes, exactly. It's a pinball machine of danger.
Right.
Will Robinson.
But a radio wave emitting thing, because radio waves are pretty weak. Folks at home, radio waves, not really that big a deal.
Yeah, not that scary.
Pretty weak. They go long distances, though. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, Woo! Waves of energy.
Energy. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
Mostly radiation.
So we're talking about energy, but mostly radiation tonight. So get your science degree out. You're probably still paying loans off that are $600 a month. Not a big deal. Hopefully you got a job doing, I don't know, ruining power plants. Is that what most people do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, polish off your degree, huh?
Yeah.
Get it out and immediately jump in the comment section and tell us every tiny detail or wrong keyword we use. That would be great. It would help us, I think.
Do you know that granite has a little radiation in it?
I literally read this and thought it was false because my new job is with marble and or granite. I'm not going to get specific, but is that true?
Yeah, it's like the whole planet has like a little bit sprinkled with it. So granite is a capture mechanism for it.
Interesting, because marble is limestone rock metamorphosized, just extreme pressure and heat. Very similar to granite, but not exactly. Granite is actually igneous rock. So it's rock made from magma, mica, feldspar, stuff that's from deep in the core areas of the earth and the mantle. So actually, that liquefied magma interacts with different rock, cools, hardens, forms amazing stratification. But that makes sense. So now you're getting stuff that's deep in the earth. Deep in the earth is fairly radioactive.
But it's completely harmless. So
okay, good.
It's not, and no one's eating granite, so it's not going to get inside of you, hopefully.
What if you're having sex with the granite slabs in the back at work?
You're probably okay. You're probably not going to... Well, it depends how you're using it.
Good point. They're going to get radiation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Everyone out there. So let's start with, I guess, the source of it all. Stars, stellar radiation, the sun.
Slow down. The Earth is a sun? Our sun is a star? I'm confused.
Our sun is a star.
I read the Bible. Our sun is a
star, yes.
See, I've been a Bible kid my whole life. I had no idea.
Oh, boy.
So you're telling me there's a sun, which the yellow one, and then the stars that are tiny white dots are the same thing?
Yes.
That's wild. I don't know that I believe it, but I'm going to talk to my priest next Wednesday, and we're going to see if you're a liar.
We should do it, like, interview different priests and get all their answers.
No, we should not interview different priests and not get their answers. But for those who don't know, stars are all suns, and suns are all stars. Blow your mind, folks?
I hope not.
Did I blow you, priests? Blow you away?
Someone got excited.
Someone did.
I don't know who.
So our sun is a star. It's in the general path of average sun.
I don't even know. I read somewhere that it was like 330 times the size of the Earth. That it was like if you took the mass of our solar system, the sun was like 99.98% of the solar system. That's how massive it is.
And Jupiter was like probably 0.09%.
Yeah.
So the rest of the planets combined were like 0.00001%. Probably. Similar, probably. You're probably spot on. I actually don't know, but
it's massive, and it's constantly crushing things inside of it.
Super massive, super friggin' hot, super friggin' in the middle. My friend Nicholas Copernicus said it was in the middle, and the Pope, a personal friend of his, excommunicated him from the church. Do you know that?
The Pope didn't like that the Earth was flat. Or wait, was it? I forget what he said.
No. So they surmised. I love.
They surmised that the Earth rotated around the Pope. Was that it?
That the planets and the sun rotated around the Earth.
Okay.
We're the center of attention. God created us. Why wouldn't we be? Copernicus, looking through all these calculations, looking at a telescope, he's like, I think we're circling the sun. Is that bad? And he was like, I'm just going to publish this paper. Is that okay? Boom. They stamped it, wrote excommunicated. You're no longer in the Catholic Church. He had to serve jail time. I only know this because his name is similar to mine. So I was like, oh, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so he was excommunicated, served jail time, and was like blackballed by like tons of people because he said, we circle something else, the sun. The sun? Yeah, right. Well, but literally we do. It's the biggest thing in the solar system, as Dan put, and it gives us heat,
light,
and
radioactive bursts.
Radiation.
Yeah, radiation.
Trying to kill us and heat us at the same time?
Yeah. So helium and hydrogen are all crushing together, and it's making it so that radiation is emitting from those particles as they get fused. It's called fusion. And at the same time, the outer areas of the sun, they're having photons emitted from them. A photon is generated from the change of an electron when it jumps up and down.
Did you know photons are generated closer to the core?
Oh, they are? The core?
Yeah, and did you know
they're emitted from there?
They emit outward from the core. They shoot around in all these convection zones, which are constantly subverting heat and matter inwards and outwards, kind of like an ocean current. Like sounds like that, so.
Yeah, okay.
But they're constantly shooting around. A photon can have been born and just be circulating and ping-ponging around and arcade balling and moving around and wizarding around inside the sun for millions of years before it even reaches the surface and then shoots straight out.
How do they know that?
They just know, dude. This is a guy who literally worships science his whole life, and he's like, how do they know? Like, I know you're clicking to research. I never research on Pander, Dan, but he researches me. on my spur of the moment knowledge, and he's about to tell us all that
photons are nothing but electromagnetic waves. So I guess they could like radiate and vibrate back and forth. They could shift. I don't think that
they goddamn big.
I don't know that they flow around in circles, but
I'm not saying they do, but they do shoot around. They go back and forth.
Okay.
Because of these convection zones. So, like, if they're in a, anyway, I'm not going to get too crazy into it.
Okay.
But it can be thousands upon thousands of years before a photon generated finally reaches the sun's surface and then shoots out at 300,000 kilometers per second. No, meters per second. No, kilometers. No, meters. Meters. Thank you.
Okay. Right. I believe something. I don't know what it is.
Is it meters?
I don't know what it is. I don't know. Speed of light.
Meters per second.
You might get.
You don't know speed of light. Jesus Christ! Science. It's 300,000 per all intents and purposes. He's going to correct me. It's 300,000 meters per second. Okay.
Kilometers.
Anyway, do you know how long that takes to reach the Earth at that point? Like 7 minutes. Am I right?
8.3 minutes for light to travel from the sun to the Earth.
So it shoots out of the Earth 300,000 meters per second and eventually reaches the Earth. But this happens how many times? How many photons would you say the sun generates?
Ooh, I don't know.
Actually, can you Google that?
So
can you?
You can. I read a story about someone asked what was the weight of photons hitting the Earth, and someone said,
"What's a photon?"
Almost nothing.
Right, it's more than zero, right? But
I'm gonna have to look this up.
We're getting into a little bit of subatomics.
So that was what it was. It was not that a photon doesn't weigh anything. So a photon weighs nothing, but it has energy with it. So the energy that a photon can impart a force.
Yes, a tiny bit of force because it's pushing.
Yeah,
it hits. It hits
on the entire face of the planet. I believe the summary was that it's almost like someone is dropping like a very large car, like a very massive car, on the Earth constantly.
Right.
But like that force is almost nothing because the Earth is so large. But you can use it as like a solar sail. So that was like some of the spacecraft ideas out there, where that you have this giant sail capturing all the force of photons, which will push you away from the sun. And
you know how big of a surface area you need, though?
I don't know, because you have no force that's pulling you back.
True. I don't disagree with that, but we're talking about the force of a car over the surface area facing the sun. So even half of the Earth would be half a large car, wouldn't it?
It's kind of like the idea between like a neutron engine is that they fire just like one, but they keep firing them over and over again. So like the amount over time that you would move gets more and more. You get more and more acceleration as you have the solar sail out.
Because there's nothing stopping you.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So
keep accelerating indefinitely.
I'll have to double check this one in the future.
So, real quick, what our sun does is it eventually forces it's so heavy, it's so big, it's so hot, and gravity at its core is so powerful, it's essentially forcing two hydrogen atoms together, which sounds like, whoa.
Hydrogen and helium. Both.
Sure. Okay. Yes, actually. Right.
This is our most sciencey episode ever, and it's tricky. This one's tricky.
Everything we say will be wrong, but it'll be close to being right. So take it with a grain of half truth. But the force is so strong that it shoves these two elements together so hard that they break the rules of is it weak or strong attractive force?
I have no idea.
Damn it! There's a rule where atoms
I think it's the strong one, because the strong one is what so the neutrons are in between the protons. We didn't even talk about the structure yet. So electrons on the outside, protons and neutrons in the middle. And the neutrons get in the way of the protons, because if the protons were touching, they'd be forced away by like a force of like 20 pounds, which would shoot them way out of the
Which one?
Strong nuclear force is the one that neutrons and the protons exhibit.
They do not touch. Like at this level, there's fundamental rules. They don't touch. So the sun is like, I'm so big, I'm so heavy, I'm so powerful, you're going to touch. The sun is essentially like a Me Too movement. It's forcing things to touch that should not be touched. And I don't approve of it, but it keeps us warm.
Yeah, it gives us life. If the sun didn't exist, we would all be dead.
Right. But it's forcing these things together, and then they they become highly unstable and they have to explode. Is that essentially the dumbest way to explain it?
Yeah, in the transfer of them combining together, there's energy and radiation, and
I thought it was on them uncombining.
it happens both ways.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yes.
Either way, when they couple, force is released. When they uncouple, because they are screaming to be released, because that's a very unnatural state for them. It's unstable. It's weird. They don't like touching each other. They're related. Like they're, you know what I mean? It's like,
what is it like, Nick? You wanted to say cousins or something.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, two cousins at gunpoint who don't even like each other. And then after the gunman leaves, what are they gonna do? They're not gonna finish. They're gonna pull apart. It's so strong. It just rips a hole in the tent up in the Poconos where they were forced.
It's like Maybe and George Michael. Are those the two characters?
Yeah, but they're maybe not related. No one's 100% sure. There's a couple lines, a couple quotes we can dial back to, but we won't get into it. Aunt Lindsay was pregnant? Yeah, like dozens of times. Uncle Joe says when he walks away, and he's like, wait, what? Yes? No? We made that one like in a soup or something. And she's like, she was made? Like what? Like, in a lab? I don't know. Anyway, just to sum it up, the sun will literally run through all of its fuel at some point, just forcing these two elements together. It burns through it. It takes a real long time, literally half the star's life. I think.
When there's no more helium or hydrogen to merge together, it's still trying to combine things together, and the things that it's combining together are larger.
Helium and nitrogen. Ooh. So it forces them together, and at this point, to force those two elements together, it has to be bigger because you need more gravity. You need more downward force pushing these two things together and making them cousins in the tent. You know what I mean? You got to be a bigger man with a bigger gun. So now this is out to here. It's not as hot anymore because it's taking up more surface area, but it's a bigger star. It's a bigger sun, right? So then it actually runs through that quicker than it did the hydrogen and helium. Much quicker. And then all we got left is helium and C22 and which one's Ne?
The carbon and then neon?
It sounds like neon, but okay, sure, it could be neon. Why don't we know what Ne is? That's weird. I thought I would know. So at this point, it's getting so big because it has to crush bigger elements together. Like these are bigger molecules. Like it's not like hydrogen and helium, which you can push together pretty easily. These are like more complex structures, and you're pushing them together. So you need more weight, more gravity, more power. You're getting bigger, but you're also burning through your full fuel faster and faster. The next stop, we got oxygen and carbon. Let's throw them together. Those are both so much bigger than hydrogen and helium. It's kind of ridiculous. Now the sun is getting huge. I'm talking huge, people, as our president might say. So it's getting bigger. It's getting crazier. The next step, it tries to force oxygen, neon, and magnesium together. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to force those three together.
It's
like a no-go.
It's awkward. It gets awkward.
They're saying that by the time our sun, which will reach these stages in like 500, 3 billion years.
I would say it's on the billion. I thought it was the 3 to 4 billion year.
3 to 4 billion years. Okay.
Sorry, wait. Our Earth is that. Yeah.
Well, hold on. We're getting bigger. Now the sun is like literally right outside your front door. It's like hitting Mercury. Next stage, it's got to hit Venus. Guess who's next, folks? Us. So its final stage for most stars, we're trying to fuse iron and nickel together. And I don't know if you've ever done that. It's nearly impossible. I've tried it in my backyard. But you try, it's so big. The star is like, it's beyond where Earth is. So we would be swallowed by the sun. Congratulations. We're gone. It's over. 4 billion years. Had a good run, Earth. At that point, fusion actually stops because you can't force those two together via the constructs of gravity and standard models, and I'm flubbing through terms at this point, but
That's fine.
it can't. And it literally comes crashing down and explodes outward. Just boom, explosion. It's shooting dust in every direction. It's shooting all that hydrogen, helium, neon, nitrogen, carbon. And if it's, a bigger star like ours is like on the medium size, we got some neon, magnesium, you got silicone, you got, what's S? I don't even know what S is.
You already said Si is silicon. S is sodium? No, and Na is sodium. What the fuck? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know what S is. Sulfur? I don't know.
Sulfur? That might make sense.
Could be.
And
then some
S.
iron and some nickel
Sulfur.
flying around.
You were correct. You got it.
Okay. But anyway, I'm talking, it just goes...
It just spews a whole bunch of random stuff everywhere.
Everywhere. Every element known, boom, 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 boom.
And that's how we formed on Earth, is that all that crap got thrown into the galaxy and then got sucked up and accreted.
Well, think of it this way, yeah. I mean, this has been happening for eons and eons, and that's how, when that solar dust and galactic wind takes it wherever the hell it wants in the universe, at some point, a couple billion years, who knows, maybe it starts spinning, maybe it starts gathering some ice, some rock, forms, gets all thick, starts getting together. Well, now you got that neon in there. You got some
nice mix.
nickel, you got some iron,
a little
got
water, a little oxygen, carbon dioxide.
Because when the universe started, it was just hydrogen, I think, right? And then eventually we got hydrogen.
Denser and denser. I'd be kind of curious.
Density kind of gives us more elements. It gives us more flexibility. It gives us more stuff. Boom, folks. All that nickel and iron and stuff that's literally alive in our bodies today, it ain't from the ground, it's from stars. So that's pretty cool. We're made of like the
stardust,
the ghost remains of stars. Yeah, stardust, literally.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. So, and it also radiation is us real bad, which is our next step.
Yeah.
Segued.
So along with the photons and the radiation that come from the sun, we have our planet. So I guess what are the things that protect us from those? If you're on the space station, you're still within Earth's atmosphere, the magnetosphere. It's still protecting you from a certain amount of radiation. And then you have the hull of the ship that also protects you from some. And there are moments that they need to hide in certain areas that are more shielded because of radiation events.
Do they know ahead of time? Like, is there like, we
have multiple, a family of radiation detectors, which can tell them ahead of time, slightly.
Okay, like 20 minutes? I'm just curious.
You probably have a few minutes.
Okay. And if you're pooping and you just started pooping, oh well.
Yeah. Luckily, there's a slight vacuum and the poop just right out, so you're good.
That's a quick drop and go. Nice. I like that.
So the Earth does the same thing for us. We have atmosphere above us that is just deflecting all the radiation. It's nullifying it. And then the magnetosphere, the ozone, all that stuff, saving us from photons and radiation.
Magnetosphere is? It sounds like magnets. We have magnets?
Yeah. So the Earth has a core that's magnetic. And then it's
made of nickel?
Nickel and iron, I believe.
Iron? Those are two heavy substances.
Yeah, very heavy.
I think I know where they came from.
They came from a star, probably.
But interesting. Just those spinning causes some kind of magnetic sphere, right?
Yeah.
So that's rotate and spin over each other. Gives us that strong magnetic field that just over everything. So that all this radiation kind of hits it and
deflects.
See that?
Yeah, you can see that through the aurora.
What?
You set me up perfectly. That's great.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's
Aurora
cool.
Borealis is one of them.
Yeah. Folks. That's literally our magnetic shield kicking radiation's ass a little bit, right?
Exactly.
It's particles hitting our field that would otherwise have maybe hit us and just going. It's like a lightsaber effect, essentially.
And there's two auroras. There's Aurora Borealis and Aurora Australis. For the southern lights. We like the Borealis. We never heard about the Australis ones because who cares about those? There aren't that many people there to see them.
Australia see that one, or can they see that one?
I assume. I mean, they're the only people there, right? Ish.
What about Antarctica, I guess? Could you see it in parts if you were habitable?
I guess you could, yeah.
The Hobbit?
So that's one of the curious things. That it goes towards the poles, And then these fields are also like through the planet, so I think it's like off kilter a little bit. So there's another thing.
It is, but so is our tilt.
Yes.
Probably related.
Yep. So with the space station thing, where it's rotating around the Earth in different paths, there's a certain path that goes over the South Atlantic anomaly, which is right where one of those, I think they're called Van Allen belts. It like goes through the Earth.
Yeah, holy shit, I forgot about those. I haven't heard that term in like 15 years. You just took me down memory lane.
Oh, I hope people are following along.
Different planets have those?
It depends on the planet.
I think. Right, it has to have
Not
a
many.
magnetic field.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of our solar system.
Jupiter does.
Jupiter does?
Oh, yeah, inner ones.
Inner ones, you don't see it?
Why not? Because they have to have a liquid and solid core, and I believe Mercury don't. It's fried to hell. Venus don't, because
Mars doesn't.
Yeah, Mars does.
Mars does?
Yeah, there's a liquid, and the outer core
But Mars,
is liquid. The inner core is solid. The rotation of the liquid over the solid is actually what causes the field, I thought. Right? Mars has like a core, some mantle, and that's it. But I think it's heavy metal. I don't believe it's anything legit. Jupiter has the biggest magnetic field in like the universe, and like the universe.
Mars
does. Solar system.
I don't think Mars has a magnetosphere anymore.
That's what I said. I said it doesn't have one.
Okay, just making sure. I thought you said you did. It did.
Oh no! I thought you said Earth, and I was like arguing with you. Sorry.
No, Earth. Yeah, Earth does. Yeah.
That's what I was. Okay.
Okay.
That's cool. Jupiter does. Saturn does. Uranus might.
Yeah. So that
might. And Pluto doesn't. Okay.
So the Van Allen belts for redirecting radiation, the South Atlantic anomaly, that is actually going through like the tip of South America and like some part of the ocean too. So when the space station is rotating through, they know that certain path has an excess of radiation. So they know to prepare for it. They can see it and plan for it.
How long does it take them to go around the Earth? I thought it was
30 minutes.
4 hours. That's wild. So every time they go over, well, do they only go over that spot once every like month because their trajectory changes every time, or is it the same path every day? I have no idea.
It's a really path that's shifted by, I don't know how many. I've only seen this like graphically displayed. So I would assume that it probably goes through like maybe 3 passes, and maybe it's like maybe hundreds of miles wide. So it might shift its path by 100 or so miles every time it passes the Earth, and it keeps pushing that over.
What does that mean? But does that mean we get like it could be weeks before you even worry about that again? Or am I talking like a day? Like, are you saying it goes random?
I think it might be a week, every other week or so.
Okay, that makes
seems
sense.
Reasonable. That might be bullshit, but it seems reasonable to me.
Sounds reasonable to me too. Sitting here having a drinky drink, talking on a podcast, folks. That's called being a star. And I don't mean the kind that blow up and shoot iron, nickel, and oxygen everywhere, all over the universe.
So I guess
if you hit us the right way, we might explode. Sorry. I thought you froze for a second, and you were waiting for me, and I was like, I'm not going to finish this.
You're not going to finish that sentence. That's fine. How do you detect radiation? Do you know?
I was going to tell you I don't, but yes.
Geiger counter? Actually. You know a Geiger counter?
Oh, yeah.
So their methodology for doing it is... Oh,
we got one.
They usually have...
The Ghostbusters, pal. Okay, pal?
Yeah, the ways I've seen it done is that usually it's like a very high voltage. So you're kind of adding energy as things pass through it, and it rips the electrons off of that piece of radiation and then redirects it towards what's called a Faraday cup. And then you can pick up that very small piece of radiation and measure it, and you can bin it and it can tell you like what type of radiation it is.
So technically, is it a drop in voltage?
It's
that we measure as a spike in radiation?
Yes.
That's crazy. That's cool. So if you're reading a steady current of voltage and it drops because things are ripping away electrons?
Yeah, it's ionizing the medium that you're providing. So usually the medium is propane. It's like a very pure version of propane.
No kidding. I didn't know this.
It can be other mediums too, but the ones I've seen.
Right. The propane's really reactionary. Is that my guess?
Yeah.
Sweet deal. I didn't know that. So, I want to say, where's the next natural direction? Like, do you want to go into any nuclear stuff, or you want to talk about the discovery of?
We could talk about the types of radiation.
Okay.
So there's 5 different types. There's alpha, beta, X-ray, gamma, and neutron. So alpha is actually quite large. It's one of the larger ones.
Is that background radiation?
No, there's galactic cosmic radiation, which is always happening, which is just like a spew of stuff, and it's like you can't tell what that is. If you were to measure,
Cosmic background.
Yeah, if you had a really sensitive device and you put it down on your table, every now and then it would get hit.
That's crazy. Is that how they discover cosmic radiation background? They're getting random
pings.
Yeah.
I mean, I've measured it before, and it definitely is. It's measurable over a period of time.
Quick, for the audience, for the layman, when the universe began, they think it exploded out of a Big Bang, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Just boom. Well, all that stuff doesn't stop. And energy's still going. It just keeps going because nothing stops energy unless it hits a solid object or it converts that energy to something else, right? So it's just still going, always going, right? Nothing will ever stop it until it hits something or whatever, reacts with something. That energy has been going on for how many billion years? I forget how old.
I don't know that we know how old the universe is.
I think we do. I thought we had a pretty good number.
I thought we had, for the Earth, it was like 4.5 something.
Bill. Yeah. I thought the universe was like 16 bill, but hold on.
Age of the universe? I thought it was 10 times that.
I thought it was 16, but I could be off. I literally...
13.8 billion years. I don't know how we know that. Did we get hit by a meteor? I think this is the meteor that hit in Arizona, New Mexico.
Oh, universe. God damn it. Stop confusing the dumb people.
It's not.
Age of the universe.
The meteor that hit the Earth was older than what the Earth was.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they got the number from.
No, this is age of the universe. There weren't rocks back then. How could there be a meteor? You're out of your zone. You better take a step back. There were no rocks. There were no meteors. I'm talking the age of the universe, right? Not our solar system. Anyway, the idea was 13.8 billion years ago, our universe exploded from a small point to a very large point. This energy has cooled down, but it's still traveling. It's lost some of its frequency. And it's lost its temperature. So now it resonates at 2.4 degrees Kelvin, which is like almost zero. It's the coldest.
That's how.
Thing constant in the universe.
No. Okay. It's the trajectories of our relative planets that we can see. It all started from a general area, and that area would have taken X amount of time to get to where we are now.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. I agree with that.
Proportional distance.
So it was all centralized, but I was just going to say this energy is still out there today.
Yeah, it's spreading through the universe.
Just constantly. It's always going. It's part of the universe, essentially. It's as far as we can see into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny is if it were a higher level, like if it were vibrating at a larger frequency, it could be visible light. It would just be light as far as we could see. It would be like in a room just filled with like light.
How annoying would that be? Just a universe filled with light. Like, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, like a microwave. Like almost this microwave below or above radio waves. It's in that zone, right?
Oh, man, you're making me...
I'm sorry. I was trying to bounce off because I don't know the answer. But anyway, it's like super cooled off. It's super low key. And when scientists were taking pictures of like the universe, they were like, it's really fuzzy. We're getting all this feedback. It's like, that's everywhere in the universe. And that all has an origin at one point. That's why we're pretty sure there was a big old bang where everybody got together and kaboom, kaboom, kapow.
So microwaves are a lower frequency than visible light. Just below.
Oh, okay. So it's visible light, microwave, then radio?
Yeah. Microwave, radio, and then ultra low frequency ones. And then above it, above visible light is ionizing radiation.
Cool. That's like our next step.
Yes. So, back to the types. We talked about galactic cosmic radiation. The alpha particles, so they're very big particles. They're 2 neutrons and 2 protons that get knocked out of the nucleus of another atom.
Like a big old, does it have to be, it can be any atom?
It has to have at least 2 protons and 2 neutrons.
Okay.
I don't know which ones it is specifically. I think there's a bunch.
Okay, but that's not. I was just curious.
The interesting fact here is that since they're larger, it's slower. Plus, it also gets captured by other things. So, like if you have a piece of paper, it's not going to go through the piece of paper. So it's completely harmless.
Really?
Yeah.
It will get caught on paper.
Yeah. So, like a piece of paper will protect you from alpha.
Radiation I can catch with. That's awesome.
Yes. Now, the only caveat there is that you don't want to swallow the alpha source, because it will then emit radiation inside your body, and that could possibly get stuck somewhere.
Who's got alpha radiation going on?
People have swallowed radiation sources by accident before. Like, it could be in liquid.
Shove things up their butt by accident, like that kind of a situation.
Well, I think the Russian spies have used this to poison people before. Like they put radioactive liquid inside of drinks, so that when that person drinks it, they become radioactive. It can kill them pretty quickly, depending on the radioactivity.
Well, I guess depending on the radioactivity.
Yep. So then you have beta particles. Those are a little different. They can emit an electron or a positron, which is the opposite of electron, kind of.
Anti-electron.
We're not going to explain it. Don't worry about it. But that can actually go through paper, and then it would hit like maybe wood or aluminum and stop. So again, you're protected if you're wearing clothing, usually.
Ooh. Okay.
If you're wearing clothing.
Don't do a orgy around betas. Come on, folks.
Don't pull a Marie Curie and do some science naked. Not saying that she did. I'm just, if she did, that was a mistake.
We don't know.
Yeah.
She could have.
So the next ones are smaller, and they make less sense. So X-ray, everyone's had an X-ray before. It could pierce through your body. You can get, densities of your body by looking at an X-ray, because the densities block some of it. It makes the picture lighter or darker depending on that. And then gamma, both of those are types of waves. So it's kind of like flowing through you, an energy flowing through you.
In a good way.
In a good way. So things like iron or lead, they're really thick and they slow them down enough to stop them. You can also use water. And water is what the neutrons get stuck in as well. The neutrons,
they fall in love with the polar nature of water. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think because water is really dense. We talked about, specific heat of water? It's like one of the...
Plus, I'm telling you, it's one of the weirdest substances in the universe.
It's squishy, yeah. Or non-squishy.
It's squishy.
Yeah. No, it's like a complex moving thing.
I said hydrogen bonds, polarity, specific heat. One of those three things probably covers it. We probably covered it.
And by squishy, I don't mean non-newtonian. That means water is incompressible. So that helps. Okay. Because it doesn't get pushed out of the way. It's not a pushover. And that's the types. So I covered them. Alpha, beta, X-ray, gamma, neutron.
So that's why we get a lead bib, right?
That's why it protects your balls. Hopefully it's long enough to cover your balls.
What movie is it? I started to say this before the podcast. There's a movie where a guy is talking to his dentist. And he's like, no big deal. And they got like the thing aimed right at his junk. And they have the bib there. But as the dentist walks away or the doctor walks away, the bib falls. They take all these extra and I think he says like he gets a settlement from the state for it, but like it's like a sad moment, and it's like Joe Dirt, or it's a movie like that, like an Adam Sandler movie, or a Joe Dirt, or something where you feel bad for the main character because he's like everyone kicks on him, and like here he is back in 1994, and you'll be fine.
Is that like Joe Dirt's father or something?
It's oh, maybe. I don't know. I don't know now. It's just someone slapping the kid like, he'll be fine. Yeah, just hang out here. We'll take a picture. And then like it slides off and he's like, is that bad? It's like.
So that was one of the things. Like working with radiation, you fear for your balls because It's like the same thing with chemo. It's like all your rapidly generating cells can be affected by the radiation going through them. Same thing with your genes. Like your DNA can be changed. So if you have a radiation source near your balls, your genes could change, and then you could express them to somebody else who could then make a modified human. The best way of saying it.
Freak? Is that what you're saying?
Mutant.
I said it.
Yeah.
Weird. So what does radiation do to our cells exactly?
I would say on the large scale, if you've looked at, so I looked at radiation sickness, and the people that have it, it's like they have holes in their bodies. Like it, every now and then, like if you were looking at someone's forearm, it'd be like they'd be like looking at freckles, but the freckles on an X-ray would be the holes generated by the energy that the X-ray has deposited there, or the radiation is deposited there. So
now,
those holes.
Why is this important? Because usually if we have a hole, the body repairs it. The body can't repair.
I don't think on that scale. So, like, not only is there a massive amount of heat, so most people get like some heat issues. They also have like just their atomic level of all of what's going on. Like every single thing on their body is getting affected by that radiation. Plus their DNA is changing. So like if you get hit with it and it doesn't kill you, you probably have cancer later on, and the cancer is going to be like throughout your whole body because all of your DNA is now flipped and changed.
All right. Cool. So I did some research into this, and I'm trying to recall my my college. But do you know what? Did you come across hormesis?
I have no idea what that is.
All right, cool. So the idea is anytime you get a large dose of radiation, it's bad. It can lead to increases in cancer. What it essentially does is it hits your DNA strands and just gives them all sorts
rips
of
them apart.
wobbly stuff. Sometimes it keeps them in part but wobbles them around. So then when it tries to duplicate, you're making like mangled DNA that doesn't serve the same purpose it should. It's mutating it, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, the idea was large amounts of radiation will give you large amounts of change. So they started doing tests. So moderate amounts of radiation should give you moderate amounts of change, and low doses of radiation, or LDRs, it becomes important because this is a sticking point. LDRs should give you low but negative changes.
Your body's actively correcting the changes that happen due to radiation all the time.
Correct. So what's interesting is they're not allowed to do these tests on humans anymore, and it's very highly debated. And the last article I read on it was from 2015, so I don't know that we've put this to bed. But the idea was low-dose radiation actually isn't bad for people. They've been doing studies on rats and mice and things, which they can do them on, and apparently low doses of radiation force the cells to go into what's called like a cell radiation repair thing. They compared a little bit to any high stressor placed on your cells in a low amount, like exercise, fasting, extreme cold. I know Mark Wahlberg does that, and I was
cryotherapy.
There you go. But doing that in small doses forces your body to come and repair these cells. And while it's repairing this, it's not actually a super threat. It starts repairing other cells. It's like, oh, we're already here to fix everything. Let's repair everything. Let's make everything cold proof. Let's really get to it. Exercise does something similar. Fasting does something similar. The idea is low dose radiation. They found in mice at least that when they and even in gestation, when mice are pregnant, they've been hitting them with low dose radiation. Those mice that are born, they didn't have any mutations. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not. When they hit them in their childhood with radiation again, there was less effect on those mice than a mouse not affected by radiation earlier on. So its cells had almost adapted to radiation poisoning, radiation problems, and they were like, we see this all the time. It's not a big deal. Again, in low doses. Any high dose would kill anything. But low dose builds up a tolerance against radiation. And they surmise, may I say, that eventually, if we were to do space travel, it might not be a bad idea to get low dose radiation as a part of our
preparation.
A little bit, because you're going to get affected by radiation. It's already proven that these mice, they reacted better to diabetes healing. I'm not sure why diabetes, but maybe that was the only one that proved positive. I'm not here to vie for them, just that the 2015 article seemed to do a good job. But it was like, too much of something is a very bad thing. But is there a minimum radiation level where maybe your body and cells can learn from it and repair
So
themselves?
I have heard stories of people that, so like when you're testing like a radiation detector, you have a beam of radiation that is hitting the detector. I've heard stories of people getting in the way of the beam and it like hitting part of their body, and like that part of the body regenerates and looks younger than the other part of the body. But again, I don't know how scientifically valid that is, or if it, like, very little is done, like the consequences of having that happen 10 years later. So you don't know if there's some sort of cancerous effect that happens as a latent effect.
That's what they said about the mice. They were like, it's only been 10 years of studies. Like, in 20 years, it turns out that all of these LDRs, low dose radiation, cause cancer, then I guess it's not worth it anyway.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with doing like a round trip to Mars, is that you get a whole bunch of radiation that you wouldn't be able to account for, protect from.
Right. Once you leave Earth, no magnetosphere. Now you got the ship, and that's about it protecting you.
They surmise that you would
Mars,
you would have to like a store of water that was blocking you. So they'd probably have like an area of the ship that would be like covered in a ball of water. Yeah, they just jump in the pool, guys. We're getting warm.
Nobody swim in the pool. Why not, Dada? Nobody swim in the pool. Oh my God! No!
Oh, 3D turds.
So, oh crap!
This distracted you.
You did, and I had it. No, it was right around when you started talking about
getting the radiation, low dose radiation. Should we pass it over? You'll come back to it.
No, I'm gonna remember. Damn it! It was perfect.
So we could talk about human health, because one of the cool things I experienced.
Cool.
Yes, the cool things. Was so in order to test certain things, you have to take it to an area that makes radiation, essentially. So they make
high energy beams or high energy systems. Usually radiation is a side effect. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so there's like sources, and sources you can just kind of like open a window and it hits it, but it's not very strong and it's not very consistent. So like in order to measure like a certain amount, they usually do it for electronics. It's like mean time to failure. They'll hit it with a certain amount of radiation to prove that it's going to last a certain amount of time.
How do electronics hold up to radiation?
So they absorb heat and gather electrons. So if you're running something that has maybe like it's older, it's like thicker, it's more robust, it doesn't get affected by radiation as much. But things that are newer,
thinner,
yes. Really? So like newer technologies are more susceptible to radiation damage.
Thinner. There's nowhere else for the I guess there's no surface area.
Yeah, there's less. I would call it surface area. Yeah.
Even though I'm sure it's more complicated. I'm sorry.
Yes, we'll simplify it that way. So like certain things like memory cards get damaged really quickly, or like the newer processors get damaged pretty quickly. So space industry is looking for.
Card. Do you remember those? Like, still can remember?
Yes, I do. Yeah, the little like you stick it in the little gray thing. Yeah,
gray cartridge. Yeah, would hold up better in space than an i7 processor. Is that what you're saying? To
compare it to the same memory, if you had a NAND flash.
Overall,
I can't compare the two, but.
Even though one's a memory stick and one's a processor, but I just wanted to make that. Sorry.
Well, it's a different functionality, so I won't compare the two.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but if you had a new like NAND flash, like one of the new flash cards, like that would get damaged first, probably.
Okay. Interesting.
So back to the so in order to hit it with a certain amount of radiation, they have something called a cyclotron, which is like it's this thing that spins up, like literally spins up in like a circle, radiation, and then like they have like a whole disk of radiation that they kind of like redirect through pipes. There are literal pipes in the ceiling, and they're like deflecting it. So they have these different rooms to hit with the radiation, and those rooms get like really staticky. It's really weird. There's like all the extra electrons. You can feel them.
Oh,
it's interesting. And the one I went to was actually part of a medical facility. So we were in the basement testing things, and we would get windows in between when they were helping patients with cancer. It was called proton therapy. So it was really, really interesting.
That was what I was talking about. Yeah.
So proton therapy is, the whole goal is that you're directing a beam into a person's body, and then the radiation has a certain kind of like time to live. It hits a certain depth and then it will release its energy. So if you can direct it right on the cancer, then the cancer can take the full dose of the energy and it destroys its DNA. It also heats it up and then it kills it.
Literally where I was going when I forgot my train of thought is anytime radiation therapy in general. It didn't have to be the proton one, but how does that...
How do they make it happen like that?
How do they know? I guess they hit a cluster of cancer cells.
Yes. They map it out ahead of time.
Oh, of course. Hell yeah, dude.
It's just like, we're just going to spray it all over your body. You'll be fine.
Arm?
Yeah. You say your arm, right? Okay, let's...
Lean more to the left. Lean more to the left. Yeah. But so they map a cluster. Let's say I'm picking my arm because it's an extremity. It's easier for me to imagine. Inside me. I don't want to get into there.
Yep.
So let's say I had cancer here to here. So we zero in on here to here. We zero in on the depth of the cancer. And we literally shoot for kind of the middle of the cancer block. And we shoot radiation at it. Radiation that we just discussed is not good. So a high dose, we hit right here. We go right in the middle of the cancer, and we hope this radiation screws up this cancer cells so bad that it just breaks them apart. And on top of that, they can't reproduce. And on top of that, the heat energy, it has to disperse somehow and maybe heats up some of the cancer surrounding it.
It's mostly the ripping of the DNA of the cancer cells, so they can't even come back from it.
So, but also in doing that, you're probably going to hit a whole bunch of innocent cells too, correct? Right.
Yeah. So the coolest part of it is that they use protons because protons have a specific distance, and then they give off their energy. I think it's called like Broga, like the spike of energy and the drop off is very specific with that proton energy. So they do that, and they also, in order to, they map out what the cancer looks like, and they have a 3D image of it, and then they take a blank, which is like a brass plate that's like 3 inches thick. That's how they modulate how far in it damages it. So they'll give you this brass plate and then machine out like the reverse of what your cancer looks like, so that it slows down the particle enough so that it will drop at a specific location. It's really cool.
So what does the brass do? It hits it and then it slows down to where it's going to stop? Interesting.
It makes the distance shorter for that proton to drop its energy.
And we know the distance exactly because...
Yeah, it's been tested.
It out, obviously.
And they have a cyclotron where they're measuring the exact amount of energy that's captured in that radiation.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's sweet stuff. Sweet stuff.
So, shout out. I wanted to move on to the next segment. This is literally just one thing. It's pretty quick. All the flags we've placed on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Come across this?
I didn't. How many flags do we got up there? It was like 10?
2 or 3.
2 or 3? We didn't get that many?
I think it's 2 or 3. I didn't Google it. I was just imagining. Do you know what color they are?
6 manned U.S. landings. They're not the normal color? Are they a different color?
Oh, they're all white because of radiation. Think about that. Isn't that crazy? We should make a white flag for a country and claim we went to the moon.
I guess otherwise. I guess I never realized that stuff that was left in the sun slowly fades.
I think they say weren't the astronauts' footprints finally gone by now? I think.
I don't know about that one.
A long time. Okay, I'm just saying they weren't. It's not. There's no erosion on the moon. It's just way, way, way less than the Earth. I mean, there's still wind, vague amounts of wind, which we won't get into the flag waving. But anyway.
I think that was set up by them to look like it was waving.
Back on the Earth.
Yes.
If you live near a nuclear power plant, you are actually submitted to slightly more radiation than the average person.
Yes.
Do you know that if you also live near a coal-fire powered town, you're submitted to way more radiation than a nuclear power plant? It's true.
So this is the banana theory, right?
We're going to get into the banana theory. Yes, sir. Let's tell everyone at home to check out this graph.
So I'm going to click on the graph right now.
It's free. Public discourse. You hear that, baby?
Yeah.
Sue us.
Public domain. So Like bananas accrue potassium.
What is it? I want to find it.
It's a
I'm not watching the
0.1 microsievert.
That's not what it's called. Radiation dosage?
Radiation dose chart. So bananas accrue an isotope of potassium because they have a lot of potassium. The chances are that they have more radiation than other fruits. It's the same thing.
Is that why? Because potassium is a heavier element? Is that why?
I don't know that it's heavier. It just has an isotope that exists and is radioactive. So it's the same thing with like eating red meat. They say red meat is bad for you, can cause cancer of your intestines and whatsoever. Have you heard this before?
No. This is because of radiation.
Yeah, because a cow is eating fields of grass, which is getting hit daily with radiation and absorbing it. So the cow is then internalizing all the radiation, which then gets in its meat, and the meat is then getting internalized by you. So it's a concentration of area, and like a large area of radiation. So you have a higher chance of the radiation getting in your body and then getting in your intestines and causing some sort of colorectal cancer.
So check this. You know, smokers take the equivalent of 300 chest X-rays over a year.
300. No. What is this at?
With lead. Okay. But it's like getting an additional 300.
So like every day you're getting an X-ray. Almost.
A little bit. Almost. Do you know why though? I thought this was the most interesting part.
Is it also the same thing? Because of the plant?
A little bit.
Concentrated plant?
Because of the plant is fertilized with certain radioactive elements. Because it's a higher amount of polonium-210. It's in the fertilizer, not in the other stuff that causes cancer. It's literally in the polonium that tobacco is fertilized and grown in. I was like, wait, it's not the cancer-causing stuff? Like, nope, it's the fertilizer.
Really?
That's the radiation. Not to be confused with all the carcinogens that are in cigarettes also.
I did not know this. This is kind of fascinating.
Isn't that wild? So literally, the fertilizer tobacco is fielded with is radioactive to an extremely small degree, but more than someone not using, right? Check this one. Sleeping next to someone emits radiation because your body's emitting radiation. It's 0.05 micro SVs, whatever an SV is, right?
I guess you're assuming because they're somewhat radioactive? Because they've been internalizing? You're battling.
The human body, right, you're emitting radiation, right?
Yeah, so that fertilizer thing is they're using fertilizers that contain traces of heavy metals. High concentrations of naturally occurring radionuclides. Radiation. Cool.
So let's say you get a dental X-ray. But they put the bib on you.
Yep.
That's 5 micro SVs. Okay, that makes sense, right?
Milli.
Look at that.
Say milli or micro?
I said micro, but is that milli? That's
U?
Milli?
The U?
Yeah.
Is micro.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
Just making sure.
No, it's
just testing you. I'm testing you.
Good. So, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So a dental X-ray that you have the lead bib for and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you were taking a plane ride from New York to LA, it's already 8 times that much more radiation.
Do you know why?
Yes, because you're above certain zones, right?
Yeah, you have less atmosphere above you, for one, and you're moving much faster. You're going through a lot of atmosphere.
You're covering a lot of ground, and you got a lot less air and atmosphere above you, so you're getting exposed to a lot of radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know aircraft pilots and stewardesses and stuff are considered high-risk radiation people?
Might make sense if they're constantly in the air.
Yes, they are. So it's a more dangerous job than most people.
Most people think.
If I see anything else interesting, right? They're like, oh, I didn't know that. Mammogram is like 400 micro SV. That's a lot.
So the max for a yearly dose for a radiation worker is 50 millisieverts, right? So that's on a scale of what you can the maximal you can get, it's 100th, right? Sounds about right.
Who are you comparing it to? I'm sorry, I didn't catch
The maximum yearly dose for a radiation worker is 50 millisieverts.
50. Okay, so that's...
And 400 micro is a 0.4.
Micro.
Yeah, so it's around 100th. So if you get 100 mammograms, you're 40 millisieverts. So you're getting close.
You're getting close with 100 mammograms. Okay. Wow. That's crazy. So then we get into the red zone. Radiation worker 1 year dose limit 50.
Mm-hmm.
Lowest 1 year deep. Check this out. Okay, cool. So 50 of these doses is the maximum 1 year limit for radiation worker, right?
Yeah. I'm looking at the graph that has the orange, right?
Yeah, right. 2 times that is the lowest link to cancer.
Yeah, so if you get double your allotment, you're probably getting cancer.
Is that 2 years? 2 years do it for you? If you work
1 year dose. It says lowest 1 year dose. So if you get that much in a year.
Oh, okay. In a year it's linked. Okay.
I know how to read English. I'm pretty good. Pretty good at this English thing.
But I also think check that out. All the green charts combined equaled 75.
Yeah, almost
so
nothing.
Wasn't even the right. That's wild.
So I have a curious story. So in Japan, they had that earthquake, which then damaged the Fukushima. Yeah, Fukushima plant. I'll say it 3,000 times. So they apparently had old technology, and it didn't shut off properly, and they couldn't cool the cores, and the cores melted.
The rods.
Rods. Yeah, we'll talk about what that actually means in a minute. But the story that I heard was pretty fascinating. Was that Japanese is like a society-centric culture, and they said that the older people were volunteering to go to clean it up because they knew that it would help the younger people survive longer. They knew their life wasn't as long. They were going to get cancer. They were going to die anyway. So you have these people that are like in their 70s saying, I'll work there to clean up the mess.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty
it's badass.
Noble.
Yeah, noble.
I like that.
So it's a form of seppuku, I guess.
It's not an American thing.
No. Effing the old people. Old people are effing us. So let's talk about, I guess, nuclear power, nuclear weapons.
Sure.
That's where it naturally goes, right? So you want to talk about nuclear weapons, the 2 that were dropped in Japan, since we're already on the Japan topic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fat Man and Little Boy dropped from the Enola Gay on Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Were they both Enola Gay?
I think they were both the same plane.
That's fair. I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, the Enola Gay was actually named after one of the pilot's mothers, so that's pretty awful. Yeah. Oh, I love you so much. Yeah.
Poison the earth.
Yeah, it killed like 100,000 people in the first.
Wait, how many did it kill instantly? Is that how many?
It was. I think the numbers were like 125,000. So I'm just going to say over 100,000 people within the first couple days. So that's the awful part of it, is that if you're not killed in the blast, you're hit with a bunch of heat. You're hit with a bunch of radioactive stuff. Puts holes in your whole body that you can't even see. But they slowly melt your body. You just dissolve, essentially. And your body can't function.
So are the holes on a microscopic level too? So your liver has holes, your kidney has holes.
Yeah.
Things are bleeding together, I guess.
It's like a percentage of lost functionality over your whole body.
Weird.
And it can vary wherever you get hit with the radiation. So those weapons work on a principle that I think it was highly enriched uranium is put in a sphere, which is then ignited, causing it to rapidly give off heat and cause a chain reaction of other uranium, which sends more charged particles, more ionizing radiation into other uranium, which then causes a cascade of energy.
Similar. Yeah.
That's what causes the big boom. Big bada boom. So that is awful. That's horrible. And I don't know. I mean, that's one of the highly debated things, that should we have used it? I think we're 3 months after we technically won World War II and Japan was still fighting.
I'll say this. I hear that a lot, and the immediate reaction by me is, no one should use that ever. It ruins the soil, kills so many innocent people. The earth can't even grow and heal. But I will say this, not in defense of it, but if we didn't, someone eventually would. And I think in doing so, I think the world realized how terrible it was. I mean, even in it being a bad decision, it was a decision made that may affect future decisions. So if we had not dropped those bombs, no one still knows if it's as bad as we say it is. Do you know what I mean? It's more a moniker of, even the US didn't. It's bad news. I think actually seeing how bad something is might make it terrible, might make it the realization of evil, of bad, and that future generations can learn from that, cannot do it, can realize this is the goddamn worst thing you can do. So, not that it's good, but
From the
the future.
From your utilitarian, I can't say it for some reason. Utilitarianism.
Yeah.
God damn it, mother effer.
Utilitarianism. Right. A greater good for the greater amount of people.
Yeah, a trade for a trade. So like I think our losses were somewhere in like the 1 million to 2 million range. I'm gonna actually look this up in like 2 seconds. So it says 500,000 for World War II. I don't know if that's true. It doesn't sound right. I'm trusting Wikipedia. But whatever. 160 military wounded. So I guess dead and wounded is about 1 million people. So if you're going to do one thing to end all wars, or end the war at the present time, which kills 100,000 people, it might prevent 100,000 of your people dying too. Utilitarianism says it's probably a better move, but highly debated. Plus the ecological effects.
Geological effects. You can't grow anything there still.
Yeah, and at least there's one thing I read that I didn't know, is that when nuclear bombs were starting to be created, there was an accord that said that there had to be a second world power to buy off on them. So the UK, Winston Churchill actually bought off on the bombing as well.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah, dropping bombs.
Again, though, you knew it was bad. I don't think they knew how bad it was. And in dropping it, I think they realized, ooh, that was bad.
Oops.
I mean, there's no nice way to put it, and I'm not saying it's right. But I am saying there was a reaction. It's
yeah.
Not just...
Plus, I also think the Soviet Union was like, okay, we're going to help you out. And it's like, whoa. So if the Soviet Union moved towards Japan and took a part of Japan, you would forever have Russia involved in your hemisphere. You're closer to your hemisphere. So they're strategic as well. So the function of the nuclear bomb is that you have, versus like a reactor rod, is that you have something that's highly enriched that rapidly explodes and causes a cascade. The nuclear power side of it is that it's not as enriched, so it's a slower burn. It's creating heat in a controlled fashion most of the time, unless you lose the features that are protecting you, like Fukushima or Chernobyl. I think, did 3 Mile Island burn down? I don't know. There was I think they saved it.
An emergency. They prevented it. Yeah.
So those things are why nuclear power works how it works. It's kind of like a slow heating of water in a controlled fashion that has protections, and then the water turns to steam and turns to turbine. Yeah.
Turbine?
Yeah.
I didn't know nuclear was that. Okay, that's cool.
It's weird that it's like the first technology to create a generator is steam, and then we're still using that steam method via nuclear power.
Turbines, baby. That's pretty interesting. I feel like there's probably a more effective way, but the fact that millions of scientists and ecologists and economists and people who want to make money, they haven't figured it out yet. So maybe it's yet to be figured out, I guess.
Yeah, and nuclear power is only about 10% of the world output of power.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
As of 2013.
So you know how we talk about all the meltdowns and everything, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
When these things happen, nothing can live, all life dies, et cetera, et cetera. Did you know they in 2016, 2014, somewhere in there, I read the article, 2 fungi were found in Chernobyl.
I read a lot about the animals too. Some of the animals changed. They
Well, did you
became
know, at least with the fungi, they were melanin based. So they would feed on melanin, which is what makes our skin. Scary enough.
holy
But
shit.
they would, hold on. So I don't think they could take human skin and just use it as fuel. But in the chemical form, melanin gets mutated a lot in radiation. Well, they were using it as fuel, and I think it was like just making hyper fuel for them, hyper food. They were growing 500 times faster in the radiation concentrated zones than anywhere else, which is also interesting for scientists. They think that if we could control that and like maybe use that to our advantage, that would be perfect space growing food, wouldn't it?
How so? How would you fuel it?
Oh, no, like radiation. If you went out into a spaceship,
Oh, and they could absorb the radiation and change it into some usable energy?
yeah, then you could turn it into food or fuel or something. You could use that because radiation kills almost everything it touches or ruins everything. But these fungi, I almost said plant, but we all know fungi are
Something else.
a different party
Or something else.
Another interesting thing is in underground gold mines in South Africa, there's right in the uranium ores, there's a lot of radiation naturally happening. They found exotic bacteria that actually transformed the radiation into food as well.
So wait a second.
Firmicutes?
So like the nuclear waste that's generated from power plants, that's buried.
Not the waste. Right. That's too tough. Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's buried in 2 places. I forget what it was. I want to name them. But they pretty much...
One of them in the U.S.?
There are 2 places in the U.S.
In like Washington?
There is one in Washington. Oh, God damn.
Yeah, I read it's one of the worst spots to grow food or something.
Oh, yeah, I messed with them. So they can no longer do it. So one of them is called the Morris operation, which takes radioactive waste and stores it in Morris, Illinois, maybe? I don't know. But that's the only one that exists because the previous one was under a mountain. I didn't save that damn link. Where's that damn link? I don't have it.
Well, I will say something similar. Do you know they think the Italian mob was dumping waste and radioactive materials into the Mediterranean? And to this day,
Really?
the Mediterranean Sea is the most radioactive of all huge bodies of water. I think comparatively, I mean like 0.014%.
Just a touch.
0.013. Yeah, whatever. But it's a little funny.
I read something that like our nuclear tests in the 1960s, they actually doubled the amount of radiation that was in the atmosphere.
I believe it.
So
like doubling it 0.00001% to 0.000.
Yep.
It's still doubling. That's a big difference.
It was Yucca Mountain. So Yucca Mountain stored all the nuclear waste up to a certain point, and then they outrage.
Mexico?
No, I think that was in
It's Yucatan Peninsula.
Nevada.
Okay.
Yucatan. This is Yucca Mountain.
Right.
So yeah, so they stored that there until like 2012-ish. And 2011, and then they ended it because so many people were outraged that you're storing this nuclear waste. What do you do now? You give it to the Morris operation, which is the one that stores it somewhere. They're headquartered in Morris. Yeah, they don't talk about it.
Like real shady, or like they don't talk about it.
But it's kind of a crazy thing. Yeah,
Wouldn't you?
I don't know. I mean, you could, but it's a very slow rate.
It has high energy.
I don't know that the spent fuel rods have any usable, appreciable energy. So, like, maybe you get, like, the fungus or bacteria that you're talking about down there, and you can eat them up.
Well, here's my thing. So, it's radioactive. So,
yeah,
it's emanating some sort of radioactive energy. There's no way we can figure out how to use that, even if we study the fungus or whatever that's using it.
I don't know. Well, that's another thing, is like this is shamed, like, for a scientist to work on this stuff, it's kind of difficult because you have so many deaths and there's no way to protect yourself. So
let's just bring it back and end on Marie Curie. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say the half-life of that stuff is about, it can range from like 1,000 years to like 24,000 years. So that's also like, what do? You're not going to remember that in 1,000 years that it's down there. I mean, you should, but you might not. You probably won't.
You won't in 20,000, I'll tell you that.
So you wanted to end it on Marie Curie? I actually have two other. I'll start off with two examples.
Go ahead.
So when they first discovered radiation and how to manipulate it and package it and sell it as like a consumer good, there's Radio Thor, which was radiated.
Yeah, it was the drink, right?
Yeah.
Irradiated drink. Good stuff.
People thought it would be like the fountain of youth or something, but it just gave you cancer, which is awful.
Well, not Evan Byers.
Evan Byers was the guy who sold it?
No, Evan Byers was a famous golfer. He won all these tournaments. He was like the hit. He was the belle of the ball. He was a good-looking guy. He was an athlete. They sponsored him. He would drink all the drinks.
He died.
He drank they estimate he drank 1,400 bottles of that radiation.
Radiothor?
What did you call it?
Radiothor?
Yeah. He would drink it on commercials. He would drink it on his leisure time. He was like a playboy. He would work for the Army for a little while. He was a golfer. He was a pro. He was like, everyone loved him until his jaw fell off and he died of multiple cancers.
So that was nuts. Like, that's insane. Like, you don't know what it actually is, and everyone has this. They pretend like it's gonna be the miracle cure, and it's radium dissolved in water.
Yeah, they would mix it with water so that you could drink it. Thank goodness.
Yeah, the same thing happened to the watchmakers. They had hands that they wanted to glow, so they painted them with radium. So they had women that were working the line painting these things with radium, and to sharpen the point of the brush that they used, they would dip it on their tongues, and a lot of them got cancer of the mouth and jaw and throat.
Damn.
Because I think it was a deadly dose that most of them got. They called them the radium girls.
Women be shopping, and some women be making watches filled with iridium or whatever.
Radium.
That's what I said. If you were listening to the episode, I said radium.
Marie Curie, you can tell the story?
I don't know the story. I just know she died in 1934. That's it, folks.
Oh, that was simple. I don't have any more than that. I know she was working on stuff.
She worked on radiation almost entirely. She was a person who made it a science. She dedicated her whole life to it. She would write her papers in it. Some people said she brought home the stuff in her test tubes. She would put stuff. She said she always commented on its gentle glow. Like, this stuff would glow in the dark that she was working on. It was like the future. She never said it was dangerous. In fact, she carried it around with her, worked on it in the open. People said maybe she should be more careful with it. She said no, it's the future of science, et cetera, et cetera. She died of it. She was well decorated. How many Nobel Prizes did she win? Just one?
I think she won two.
So there you go. She won two. I thought she won more than one. She did a lot of work. I mean, she literally laid a lot of foundation, figured out on an electronic level what was going on. This is back in the 1930s. I mean,
she died in 1934. She got a Nobel Prize in physics in 1903, and then a Nobel Prize in chemistry in 1911.
So, I mean, she lived actually longer than I thought after the fact.
She did a damn good job.
Good. Yeah. Especially for someone working on it, carrying it around in her lab coat, putting it in her pocket, going to work and stuff. Her papers, actually, that she hand wrote her notes on, are under lock and key in lead boxes in contained areas, because scientists still want to read it today. You have to put on the whole hazmat suit to read it. She actually wrote a cookbook too. She was an avid cook. Yeah, that's what we got.
She cooked with radiation?
Read it. No, you're not allowed to read it.
Because it
was coded. Handwritten. Too much radiation. So you can check it out online, or I guess if you wear the whole thing. But eventually it got her, and thank God.
She had there's a picture here
that she got.
Yeah. There's a picture of her in a mobile X-ray vehicle. Is mobile radiography. They called them petite curies, little curies.
Little curies.
Yeah, petite curie. It's like a pastry.
And that's crazy that it's a woman too making all this headway.
Badass.
She is. She was kind of a badass.
Yeah.
Got her in the end, but badass.
There's
shout out. Marie Curie listens to the podcast, or she would if she were alive today.
So sure she would. She'd love it. So the one thing that we didn't cover was radioactive decay and radiocarbon dating and all that stuff. Yeah. So A lot of this stuff has like an extremely long half-life, and some of it, like carbon-14, which we and other things eat not exhale. We eat and digest, and it gets so like when we die, we have this like set number inside of us. So anything in the last 50,000 years that has died from the carbon-14, you can tell how old it is because it's a natural thing that happens with the carbon in the atmosphere. It starts dating itself as soon as it's created.
After X amount of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the same thing works with other things. That's how we know how old the Earth is, supposedly.
Fossils and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rocks have it. So if you could find that. So what's the actual procedure?
So that's a different version of. It's not the carbon one because the carbon one only goes to 50,000 years. I forget
that's
what the specific one is.
There are different isotopes that have a half-life that rocks
last longer. Yeah. You're trying to think of it on the fly?
Yeah, I really was, dude. I was trying to just going through every element.
So they have a uranium lead dating method. They have potassium method, uranium method. They have a lot of different methods to do it.
There's a lot of potassium ones I've read. How long's whatever. You can look up the different. Every element has a half-life. Is that every element that has an isotope?
So there's observable half-lives. Is that we don't know that other things don't. I mean, everything could have a half-life. We just haven't existed long enough to know that certain things last X amount of years. Also, as a side note, you live in southeast Pennsylvania, which has higher levels of radon.
Whoa.
So if you're in the basement and you get radon gas, that is, I think, a mixture of like uranium mixing with something else that produced radon. So you could be in danger if you're in the basement. Just letting you know, which I think you might be. Yeah, you got an issue.
Trying to get more and more. Going in my body.
Oh, I forgot to switch it back to the. Oh, it's okay. Oh, pardon me.
We lost the video?
Lost the video.
Well, the audio should be fine.
Yeah.
Everyone listening is like, I didn't know there's a problem. Everyone watching is like, we've been staring at a graph for a long
We didn't do anything special, so you're okay.
Long time, folks. I was making the greatest faces. I looked handsome as hell.
Oh,
Pander Dan was like doing this a lot, like trying to squint. It was awful.
Snort.
I got to snort. That's awesome. Well, we covered everything.
Yeah, we're good.
Smokers to swimming in the Mediterranean to imagine
radiation.
dragons.
Oh yeah, radioactive. Good song.
Yeah, radioactive.
Auroras, solar sails, radiation pressures, photons, electrons, positrons, solar
Evan
flares,
Byers,
storms.
Evan Byers listens to the podcast.
Yeah, radium girls, radio Thor,
Radon, Thor,
fusion,
the god of thunder,
fission,
lightning,
supernovas, stardust,
supernovas, great novas,
atmosphere, magnetosphere, Van Allen belts.
Yep, Van Allen belts.
Neutrons, alpha, beta, X-ray, gamma, neutron.
Jimmy Neutron star, Jimmy Neuter star, Jimmy neutered his cat.
Radiation sickness, proton therapy, nuclear weapons, nuclear power.
Hormesis, horniness. Both of them we kind of covered a little bit. We touched on them.
I think we covered it all.
And radiation. I think we did everything. And do you want to get into the science of radiation right now, or should we just wrap it up?
I think we could wrap it up.
We did it.
Good job.
That's incredible. I like you. I like radiation. I like them at home.
We like you.
I like
quite a bit.
Like them a lot.
And good night.
Thanks for joining us.